Ooh, Pompeo was on the hot seat today. Oh my goodness, they shredded him. Or they tried to, all right? He kept his cool, but we'll talk about him and also Barr and some other things in just a minute. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthification Chronicles, and wow, this was a jam-packed 2 hours. Oh my goodness, this started out before it even got going. They had protesters here that they had to remove. They had some with pink shirts on and some with yellow shirts, and the yellow shirts didn't do any actual protesting, but these pink shirts, they had signs and everything, which I didn't think they were allowed to have, but they did escort them out. So, yeah, anyway, it just was something. This was the House Foreign Affairs Committee that did this, and it was entitled Secretary Pompeo Testifies on Iran, Iraq, and Use of Force. Now, I tried looking at the Fox News one, but it started about, maybe 20 minutes in, and so it was not as good, and it didn't show who was asking the questions. It just showed Pompeo, which was kind of nice because I didn't have to look at all the others. But then I didn't know some of them. You know, this is not a committee that I'm very familiar with. I mean, I know that Engel is the head of it, but that's pretty much all I knew. And I didn't know who all was on it. So it's not necessarily the name people that you're used to, but the Republicans did a really good job. And the Democrats, oh my goodness, it just was, let's see how much we can rip into Pompeo and call him every name under the sun and not give him any chance to respond. That's what was so irritating. But you know what? He handled it like a champ. This guy has the patience of a monk. I mean, he really does. He was amazing. And you know that he is such a smart man. If, in case you don't know, he graduated first in his class at West Point. So this is not, just an average mentality person. This is like a really, really, really smart guy. Okay? And he went to Harvard and everything and got a law degree. So he is definitely a very smart person, and he could have run mental circles around any of these Democrats here. And so there were just times that he smiled, and I could just imagine what was going through his mind. It's like something like, what an idiot. So anyway, I did want to play a couple of clips for you. So let me play the first one here. This is kind of what kicked it off. So here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So every time you testify, I can't help but think of those days when you were on this side of the dais. I can remember vividly you thundering away at Secretary Clinton during the Benghazi hearing. You know what? She showed up voluntarily, sat there for 11 hours. But with you, sir, we had to move heaven and earth to get you here today for just 2 hours. To me, that shows disregard for the oversight responsibilities of the United States Congress. It is clear that the Trump administration's decisions in Iran are reckless and impulsive. Even after Iran emerged as a hotspot of the coronavirus outbreak that is on the verge of being a pandemic, you could only commit today to 2 hours. After the Soleimani strike, the Iraqi Council of Representatives passed a resolution calling for U.S. troops to be kicked out of Iraq, which is exactly what Soleimani wanted to do for 20 years. Pushing the U.S.-Iraq relationship to the brink and plunging the Middle East into chaos and uncertainty does not benefit the United States of America. The list of actions that are legally and strategically questionable continue to pile up in this administration, and yet the administration refuses to provide clear and honest answers. These include pulling out of the JCPOA, no strategy; abandoning the Kurds, no strategy; strategic benefit of assassinating Soleimani, no strategy; suggesting that the U.S. would destroy cultural sites in Iran, no strategy; denying Iran's foreign minister a visa to go to the UN, no strategy; suggesting that we will punish Iraq if it follows through on expelling our military. No strategy. Sir, nobody here mourns the death of Soleimani, but it backfired in completely foreseeable ways. Killing him undermined all of the objectives and didn't do anything to make America safer. Now, I had many other things I would have loved to ask you, but I have to give up some of my time because you're only here for 2 hours. I can't use my whole 5 minutes because my colleagues would like to have something to say, so I now yield to Mr. Sherman.
So as you can tell, the Democrats were not happy that Pompeo only gave them 2 hours, and he refused to extend it. They were ticked about that. And then this guy comes off and says, "You have no strategy." It's like, do you realize, first of all, that this is not a classified setting, so they can't talk about any strategies that they might have. And secondly, they don't talk about their strategies because they don't want to tell the enemy what they're doing. Hello? Haven't you learned that yet? But they just kept pounding. And so then after this one, there was another one. Let me play that.
Mr. Secretary, it's taken you 2.5 months to come here before this committee to explain the actions of January 3rd. Today, the world faces a worldwide pandemic, the coronavirus. Will you come here next week and explain our international efforts to deal with the coronavirus, or will it take us 2.5 months to have you back here? Yes or no?
We have briefed Congress over 70 times on Iran. 70 times.
My question is about the coronavirus and whether you'll come here next week or whether you think we should focus on the coronavirus.
I'm happy to work with you to find a time that works with everyone's schedule to talk about this.
Well, let's hope it doesn't take the reclaiming my time.
I can't let go.
Reclaiming my time. Sir, you limit us to 2 hours. Secretary Clinton spent 11 hours. You must adhere to the rules of this committee, just as you enforced them when you were sitting in this room.
Order.
I am reclaiming my time.
Order. Let him speak.
Mr. Chairman, my time has been interrupted. I would like order in the committee.
Okay. Gentlemen from California will continue.
Now, 110 of our service members suffered traumatic brain injuries. The Pentagon had thought it would be even worse. But the day after 110 of our service members were hurt, the president said no Americans were harmed in last night's attack by the Iranian regime. 19 days after those injuries, the president said, "I heard they had headaches. I can report it's not very serious." 30 of them are still in the hospital. All of them will be suffering their whole lives or be studied their whole lives for their traumatic brain injury. Mr. Secretary, do you want to take the opportunity, this is a yes or no question, do you want to take the opportunity here today to apologize to those service members for trivializing their injuries?
Mr. Congressman, I've never trivialized the injury.
Do you want to apologize on behalf of the administration for trivializing their injuries?
Sir, I've never trivialized any injury to
You're part of an administration. You speak for that administration. Do you want to apologize for the administration's trivializing those injuries?
Are you looking for me to answer the question?
Yes.
I'm happy to answer the question if you'd cease speaking over me. Just give me a second. We take seriously every American service member's life. It's why we've taken the very policies in Iran that we have.
But anyway, I thought it was just something else that this guy had the audacity to talk about Pompeo this way and to ask him the, when did you stop beating your wife type question. Really ridiculous. And again, they never gave him time to answer properly. They were just cutting him off right and left. It was sad. It was really sad. Now, of course, he wasn't there to talk about the coronavirus. He was supposed to be talking about Iran. But oh no, that's all they wanted to talk about. And they just kept on. And, they were saying how all of their constituents are so panicked about this. And it's like, you know what? I don't know anyone around here where I live. Nobody is worried about getting the coronavirus. We're not worried. It's just not something we're concerned with. And I don't know about where you live or anything. I guess maybe some people could be upset about it, but if they are, they're blowing it way out of proportion. It's nothing compared to what like Ebola was. Ebola had really bad outcomes. If you got it, you had a very slim chance of surviving. This, it really is not that dangerous, you know? And part of the reason that people have died from it is because they were not treated like they should have been, and you know, it just was not handled very well by the Chinese authorities. And that's why it got so big. Plus, the other countries that are now coming out with it, it's just not been handled well. Ours, you know, we quarantined the people. It's not a big deal. But oh no, that's not what the Democrats want to put out there. But there were some of the Republicans who stood up and who had some really good speeches. So let me show you this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Great to see you, Mr. Secretary. Welcome to Masterpiece Theater. Unfortunately, this is a really serious business. I'm going to read you a quote, see if it's familiar to you. Turns out I'm really good at killing people. Didn't know that was going to be a strong suit of mine. Do you know who said that?
No, I don't.
That was the previous president. That was President Obama. So in the country of Pakistan, 2,741 killed, not including civilians. In Yemen, 975 killed, not including civilians. In Somalia, 286 killed, not including civilians during the last administration. Do you remember when it occurred in Congress?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. What's the question?
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Secretary. When did we declare war on Pakistan, Yemen, and Somalia?
Yes.
I missed that. Did you miss that?
It didn't happen during my 6 years. I'm highly confident of that.
Yeah, I don't remember it either. Do you remember this committee or any committee dragging in the Secretary of State and asking them what the strategy was during that period of time when we killed, that the United States was responsible for killing 4,000 combatants around the world, not on the battlefield declared by the United States of America? Do you remember when that happened?
Yeah, I'm sure there were oversight hearings where Congress asked questions about it, but I can't recall.
Do you remember what the strategy was?
In which particular theater?
Any one of those places.
I know what the administration said they were trying to do.
Do you remember any of my and your colleagues on the other side of the aisle? Quite honestly, do you remember any colleagues on this side of the aisle complaining about removing terrorists off the face of the earth?
I don't recall that happening.
I don't remember it either. When you have, Mr. Secretary, actionable intelligence regarding impending or imminent attacks on U.S. citizens or U.S. interests, including embassies, what is your duty?
It's to ensure to the maximum extent possible that none of the Americans that are in any of those places, civilian, State Department officials, or military folks, have any harm brought to them. So to reduce that risk with every tool that we have in our arsenal.
And so you were made aware of security risks prior to the strike on Soleimani to U.S. interest in individuals, personnel, and took corrective action to make sure that the risk was mitigated.
Yes, that's the decision that the president made.
Do you remember we had a consulate in Benghazi, Libya, when the ambassador had asked repeatedly for increased security at the time for the previous administration? And do you recall what occurred? Did he and the embassy receive the increased security, or did it not?
My recollection is that some of the requests for increased security were made available to them and others were not.
And what was the result?
There was a tragic day where 4 Americans were killed.
Who said that?
Yeah, 4 Americans were killed, and we had hearings up here, and the bottom of it was never gotten to as far as many Americans concerned and considered. Yet we sit here today and second guess your decisions and the administration's decisions to keep America and America's interest safe in the face of a terrorist with the responsibility of hundreds, if not thousands, of Americans' deaths and maimings on his hands. Mr. Secretary, are we or were we at the brink of war, as has been claimed in this committee, with Iran?
Yeah, we were at a heightened sense of risk on both sides, but I never observed that we were at a risk of anything that when I hear people talk about, I've heard people talk about World War III, that is not where we were.
Yeah, I mean, I don't...
At any time during these moments from the 1st of November through to date.
Yeah.
You could, having said that, I will tell you that the Islamic Republic of Iran considers themselves at war against the United States of America and against Israel.
Yeah, it would seem to me, listening to some of my colleagues, that we should allow Iran to kill as many Americans as they want to and not respond for the fear that they might kill even more. I don't know how you can't reach that assessment here if you listen to the rhetoric in this committee.
Yeah, the Scott Perry did a really good job, and actually most of the Republicans. So, I just don't want to take a lot longer on this particular one because I have a lot more to go on this particular video, but I just wanted to let you know what our Secretary of State went through. They treated him horribly, and most of the Republicans apologized for what went on because it really was just awful. It was a horrible show of pettiness, and it was a circus. It was crazy what they did. So, yeah, and Pompeo, good-natured guy that he is, he took it all, but oh my goodness, you could just see in his eyes he wanted to respond several times. And he tried, but they wouldn't let him. Anyway, speaking of being attacked by the Democrats, guess what? Jerry Nadler's at it again, and he wrote this letter on the 28th, which is when I'm recording this, and it's to Bill Barr. So, I write in advance of our March 31st oversight hearing in order to request information concerning improper political interference, including by President Trump, in enforcement matters handled by the Department of Justice. The abandonment of these long-standing practices has motivated more than 2,000 former department employees, public servants of both parties, public servants of the deep state, including but not limited to a former Deputy Attorney General under President George H.W. Bush, to call for your resignation. You yourself have acknowledged the difficulties posed by the President's statements about ongoing Justice Department matters. In a recent interview, you asked President Trump to stop tweeting about the department and said his comments make it, quote, impossible for me to do my job, and to assure the courts and the prosecutors in the department that we're doing our work with integrity. These circumstances are deeply troubling. Although you serve at the President's pleasure, you are also charged with the impartial administration of our laws. In turn, the House Judiciary Committee is charged with holding you to that responsibility. Too bad they didn't do that like with Eric Holder. The committee's specific concerns include, but are not limited to, the following. And so here are the concerns, the thing about Roger Stone, the thing about Mike Flynn. This is not unusual. He wouldn't let him send Manafort to Rikers Island, which is good. It's just, this is the kind of stuff, ignoring federal whistleblower protections, organizing a series of queries. It just, yeah. Yeah, they are whining, and of course, paying any attention to Giuliani's, information about Ukraine. They are panicked, folks. When you read through this is nothing more than just extreme panic. And that actually is what I thought about with the Pompeo thing. It seemed like they were driven by this need to take him down, that he was a huge threat to them. That's how it came across. And so anyway, this is what they're complaining about, and here are other concerns. They have all these concerns, and look at all the footnotes. And so all of this stuff. And that Hillary Clinton email investigation, which overlapped with an Inspector General review and ongoing review by U.S. Attorney John Huber, the Justice Department made available nearly 1 million pages of documents. So, you know what they're asking for. Documents. This is what they want. We make the following urgent requests. The department promptly provide the committee with a full briefing concerning the criminal and civil matters identified in this letter. That could be interesting. They want to know how close they are to being arrested, I'm pretty sure. And then look at all the people that they want to have come in and testify. And of course, a lot of them are people you might know, because these are some of the people that are really working for us right now. like John Durham. They want him in there. And this Scott Brady is the one that is going over Giuliani's stuff. And Richard Donahue and John Huber. Yeah, they want these guys in there because they want to find out what they're doing. I'm telling you. And I think there's several U.S. attorneys in here that they want to bring in. I have an idea that maybe those attorneys are the ones investigating the deep state. So it should be interesting. I don't know if they'll show up or not, but the same thing occurs. They can't talk about ongoing investigations. So I'm not sure how that works before Congress, but they shouldn't be able to, and it certainly should not be public. So a description of each instance in the last 10 years when the senior officials of the department intervened to alter sentencing recommendations by a U.S. Attorney's Office. Oh, and copies of documents. They want to know if Trump talked to Barr about anything and all of this. So that's what this lovely little letter is all about. And of course, Doug Collins put this out. He said, the Democrats' request today is yet another attempt to distract from the job they've failed to do, which is reform FISA and finally address the abuse that has plagued our nation over the last 3 years. The only political interference our committee should be examining is the FBI's unlawful surveillance of Carter Page and the Trump campaign. The fact that Democrats sent these requests just 2 days after canceling our FISA markup and putting our national security at risk is further proof that they care about one thing and one thing only, attempting to take down President Trump. Yeah, they were supposed to have this FISA markup, and a markup is where it goes back and forth and they try to, add amendments or, delete amendments and everything, and they come to some kind of conclusion. And usually, before this group came in, what they would do is the minority would express things that they thought should change, and it would be a negotiation of sorts. Well, that's not what it is anymore. It's whatever the majority says, the majority gets. And so FISA is coming up for a vote in March, and they really needed to do this, but oh no, they canceled the FISA markup so that they could focus on that because that letter was more important. So anyway, I wanted to bring those to you so you had a chance to see them and you know what's going on, because I think it's always good to have people informed. And then I wanted to show you this. This is from Google's main page. Look at that, the Cheshire Cat, Alice in Wonderland. Just wanted to show you that. It may not be that picture when you see it, but it's that picture right now. So I got it on video. Anyway, this is something that somebody pointed out to me. I'm sorry, I can't remember who right now. But thank you for the tip, because this was an awesome speech that he gave. It is 46 minutes long, but he does a really good job. He starts out talking about Phil Haney. So that was very interesting. And it does make me wonder if he could be the person that Phil Haney gave the information to. If so, please pray for Louis' protection, because he definitely needs to be protected, or whoever Phil gave that to definitely needs to be kept safe from people that want to do away with them. So anyway, I'll leave the link to this down below. As always, all the links are down in the description. You have to click like a little triangle or something like that if you're on a mobile device, or if you're on the browser, you go down here and you click show more and it'll open it up so you can see them. All right, so then we go on to this one. Well, in my last video, the one that wouldn't process, and then I deleted it and I re-uploaded it and it actually processed that time. Although there for a while it said 0 processed and it wasn't moving, so I was a little worried that it wouldn't go through. But anyway, so yeah, this is a video about Fredrick Brennan. And it's from 2014. I thought you would like to see it. It actually makes him look like a really nice guy. And so it shows you some of the hardships he goes through. And again, I'm not saying he doesn't go through hardships, but I am saying that what he did to Aitken was just, unconscionable. Okay? And he does deserve to be held responsible for the DDoS attacks that he has implemented against them. So anyway, this just kind of gives you a little bit of information. I'd seen this a couple of years ago, and the whole situation reminded me of it. So I looked it up, and it's very interesting. As he goes along here, he talks about the guy that pays for the apartment. That is this guy right here. Now, I don't know. I'm really bad with faces and ages and stuff, so I'm not sure how old this guy is. But at this time, I think he said he was, Fredrick said he was 19, I believe, in this particular video. Anyway, this guy is the guy that pays for his apartment, like I said, and kind of pays for him to do some work. Well, you know what this guy's name is? His name is Aaron Parnas. Yeah, now, I don't know. I do know that Lev Parnas has a son called Aaron Parnas, who was attending law school, and I think he just graduated. So I don't know that this guy, I think this guy is older than that, because this was 2014. So I think he's probably older. Again, I'm terrible with faces. So I don't know. What do you think? I don't know that there's a connection, but yeah, there definitely is an Aaron that is his son. He worked, actually, this Aaron worked for Rudy Giuliani. He was an intern there. So I'll leave these links down below. If you want to read through them, you can. But I just thought it was very interesting that that's the name. I don't know that there's a connection. I'm not saying there is. And if you're really good at digging on families and things, maybe you can dig up more. So I don't know. Is this guy related? I don't know. And I don't think Freddie is related to John Brennan, although they may share some good characteristics. But who knows? You never know, right? Anymore. So who knows? It's one of those things. It's just kind of speculation. But again, a lot of people have connections with a lot of other people. So I'm not ruling anything out. But if you're somebody who can dig into family connections and things like that, maybe that's something to look into. I just think it's very interesting. Oh, now this is the writer in me. Okay, I have nothing to base this on except my writerly, ooh, what if? So if I were writing this would be a really good plot twist. And that would be maybe Freddie is working for the CIA. Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? So anyway, I'm just, like I said, that's just a writerly thing. I have nothing at all to base that on. But that's the kind of person that the CIA would work with, though, it seems like. I'll include all the links down below. Again, if you want to do some research on it yourself, go for it. I don't think there's any connection, but it just struck me as odd when the guy said his name. It's like, whoa, that's interesting. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.